What is the town council's role in attracting appropriate small, medium-sized, other type businesses to our community that are tax-paying entities? And if it is your responsibility, how are you going to start that process? What will you do to attract business to Winona Lake? And we begin with you, Sue.
Well, first of all, we'd have to have a place for them to do business. And it depends, quite honestly, whether you consider the village at Winona a part of Winona Lake. We don't have a lot of say in what goes on at the village at Winona. We love what they have, there's no question, but we really don't have the ability to persuade or make a lot of decisions regarding the village at Winona. However, in the other parts of the town, we do, but we are at a terrible lack of place to put businesses. So the first thing would actually be to define an area, which our Plan Commission, our Redevelopment Commission are working on, looking at some of those issues. By revitalizing these boards, we actually got some new energy in these boards, and I hope to have some new ideas and new excitement. But first thing we need to do is actually get a place to put them, and then we can put them.
Mr. Wynn, what role should the town council play in attracting business, and how would you start the process?
Well, I think for one, I think KEDCO says the 70% of economic development is retention of your existing businesses. So I think the first thing we should do is partner with the existing businesses we have. For example, I know right off the top of my head, the village of Winona, the city used to suck up the leaves for the village of Winona. And sometime in recent years, we've quit offering that service to the village of Winona. And by the city quit offering that service, the village of Winona's leaf pickup tripled in the cost. So did we save triple the cost to the town by by setting our businesses back by triple the cost? The first thing is support the businesses we have. And then second thing is continue to create a more attractive environment. And I think that is focusing on what we are very unique about, creating a community that people want to live in and want to come to shop in, the greenway, the lake, the trails, things that we're good at.
Good, thank you. Mr. Swanson, weigh in this as a councilman. What role should you play?
Sure, I agree with Mr. Wynn and others. We need to be reasonably business friendly. That would be things like Boathouse and Cerulean, given their good reputation and non-abuse of their current two-way, to grant them the three-way. On the other hand, by contrast, I would not be so business friendly to allow a carryout or a bar to locate in Winona. That's the distinction, that's the principal distinction there. I know there are folks who have talked about land along US 30 east of Winona that could be suitable for small industry development, to which sewer and water could be extended. That sort of forward-looking appeal to small industry could be taken on behalf of the town of Winona Lake. So, thank you.
Ward 1, Mr. Daggett.
I think you all have to begin by talking to the businesses that are already established here, doing what we can to help them grow, put them on a growth pattern. And then secondly, you need to look within the community, find areas of opportunity, areas of growth for new businesses. It's no good to us if we're courting 15 businesses to come into Winona Lake but have nowhere to put them. So we need to have an internal plan, grow our community in a way that makes sense, and at the same time encourage new businesses to join an already great group of established businesses.
Mr. Hood.
I believe business retention is very important. We have the lake out here. There's a $27 million fishing industry for pike and perch, especially for our particular lake. We have the greenway. We already have the village of Winona and other businesses around town. When the opportunity presents itself to resolve our landlocked issue, we can address that. Our current need is to maintain our infrastructure and our streets to make sure that Winona Lake continues to be a wonderful place to live and work. If you go to Warsaw to work, that's great, but come back to Winona Lake and have some fun. Thank you.
All right. We'll begin this question with Mr. Howie. Mr. Howie, what role should the town council play in attracting business, and how are you going to start the process?
I think the town council should be one of the leading entities in bringing new businesses to town. as well as keeping those that we have and helping them to flourish. One of the things that was done in the past, when sewer lines were put in, the town council would take a look to see if there was any way that there would be any increase in activity on those. And nicely to say, the town council at the time, many, many years ago, when the sewer lines were taken out east, they put the monies into those sewer lines to increase that, so that there could be an area out to the east of town, south of the railroad tracks. And they also took and got permission from Warsaw, and towns have to do that for some reason, to annex clear out to 400 East, the township line, which would give us a large area out in that district where we could put an industrial commercial park.
Mr. Ball.
As I stated earlier, it has to be the business of the town council, the #1 priority. I would see this question would be important to me, is are we partnering with organizations that already exist in our county? For instance, KEDCO, of which I sit on the board and no current council member does. They are attracting businesses to our community. Milford is a great example. If you look at the lead they are taking up there to prepare land to not quite be shovel ready, but bring the utilities to the edge and everything in a property that will attract business to that community. That must be the priority if we're going to continue to provide the infrastructure. If we don't attract new business, the only option is raise taxes. And that should not and cannot happen in Winona Lake.
Now we'll go to Ward 3, and we'll begin with Mr. Schaffner. What's the town's role in attracting new business, and what are you going to do to start the process?
I think first of all, it's important that, as I said earlier, about fostering with our existing businesses. And I do believe that, because we've got to have the people that are here presently happy and pleased to be located in this community and not looking to move outside of Winona Lake. Once we do that, I think between the redevelopment committee and the area planning committee, along with the town council, going out and beginning to seek to find new business for this community. Ironically, we are limited on our space as far as what we have available, but I believe if we got the right opportunity, we'd find space for them.
Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, I think that obviously the council has to partner with our current existing businesses if we're going to be successful in growing businesses here in town. And I'd like to give you just maybe a little example of a situation that happened under one of the past councils. There's a storage unit out at 275 that wanted to put up a sign on their property. And the prior council decided that they couldn't do that. And then the town coordinator said he didn't like signs in the town. And then they forced another business to take a sign off from a building over by Dairy Queen because it didn't meet with their codes. I think that kind of approach to businesses automatically turn them off. And if you don't think that that kind of information gets around very quickly, you'll have to know or talk to a good businessman who doesn't want to come into the community with that kind of treatment.
Thank you very much. Mr. Adams. The current town council has lowered the amount that department heads and the clerk can actually buy without additional authorization to $5,000. Is $5,000 the right amount? Should it be more than that? Should it be less than that? What is the appropriate financial authority department head should have after the town council has approved a budget?
Well, I would respond and simply say to you that the town council is the policy-making body by statute and law, and whatever they determine that amount to be, whether it be $10 or $10,000 or $100,000, that's what I would have to follow. I don't set those rates, if that's what you're asking. Thank you.
Mrs. Hicks.
I think we agree on something. It is not our responsibility as a clerk treasurer to set that amount, and so whatever the council is comfortable is fine with me.
Right. Well, folks, they didn't give you any insight there for the clerk treasurer, so we're going to find out from the town council folks. What is the right amount after you've passed the budget? What is the appropriate amount of financial authority that you give to department heads after you've passed the budget? And we begin with Mr. Hood.
As a planner in Medtronic, I think it's important to put a good plan together. The council sits down with their departments and makes that decision at the beginning of the year. So the departments know their people the best. They know what they do the best. The police department, the fire department, and the street and parks department, they work every day doing their jobs. So I'm not sure if there needs to be a limit. There is a budget there for a reason that we set, and as long as it stays below that, I don't believe it should be an issue of letting them handle their business and continue to provide great service that they already do.
Mr. Daggett, what is the right amount of financial authority a department head should have after the budget's approved?
I will tell you that I don't have permission in my family household to spend $5,000 without my wife's permission. But I don't think she does either. I think there needs to be sort of a check and balance. These people who are put into the head of the department or each of the departments, they're there for a reason. They're there because they're highly qualified, very talented people, and at some point we have to rely on them to use their internal compass, as we've talked about earlier, to be able to make the right decision on behalf of their department, on behalf of the taxpayers. I think once it is, that amount is set, whatever it is, 5,000 or 10,000, by the board, then I think they need to step away unless there's a problem.
Ward 2, the current town council has lowered the amount that department heads and the clerk can buy without authorization down to $5,000. What is the right amount of financial authority department heads should have after the town council's approved the budget? Mr. Bowl.
When you hire good people to do good work and serve the community, and you do due diligence in preparing the budget and approving the budget before a fiscal year begins, if you limit them to $5,000 purchases at any given time, and you micromanage, it leads to the paralysis of analysis, and employees are hamstrung in their ability to do what best serves the community of Winona Lake. Therefore, I believe that when a budget is passed, the good people that are put in place, that you've hired, hold them accountable to those things, but they have the freedom to spend within their budget.
Mr. Howley.
I'm on the spot because I'm on the council that passed that. You might call it micromanaging, but in this economy, I think we need to do a little bit of micromanaging once in a while. We have to see if your tax dollars are being spent wisely. One of the reasons this was passed is we found that purchases were being made outside of this county. This council has encouraged your tax dollars to stay within the county. We have purchased a truck for the street department from a local dealer, and we got it even lower than what the quantity purchased through the state was from, out of the Ford dealership in Bloomington. We also were able to purchase a police car, following those same guidelines. The department head knew that he had to go out and find the best buy and come back to us for the permission to do that.
Thank you. We'll go on now to Ward 3, and we'll begin with Jerry Nelson. What's the right amount of financial authority a department head should have after the budget is passed?
Having faced this particular question in a lot of the hospitals that I worked in, I can tell you that there's two problems that come into play. Number one is once you set a limit, you set it for all departments. Generally, then every department, regardless of their activity. So if some departments only spend $200, they fall easily within any limit you set. If other departments have big ticket items they need to buy, then they get into the problem of running up against it. If Winona Lake was Chicago, where you had layers and layers and layers of people to get through to try and get approval, you may have a problem with a $5,000 limit. Winona Lake isn't. Winona Lake's a small town-friendly area, and the council members are easy to get to, talk to on the phone. I don't think that there's anything wrong with setting a limit that asks the department heads to come back and talk to the council members if the department is buying more.
Mr. Schaffner.
I would say that whether it's a $5,000 or a $10,000 limit, it really doesn't make a lot of difference as far as that number goes. What is important is the fact that the people that you have empowered in those positions understand that they have to work within those means. And working within those means is what is going to keep this community on a solid footing, which is what I think is very important for us. I do have to agree that during these economic times, when it was brought down to the $5,000 limit on that, I don't think that's a bad opportunity for us, because I think, again, the people who are doing this, as long as they understand how the game is to be played, they also understand what their limits are that they're able to work within.
Thank you. On to Ward 4, and we'll begin with Mr. Wynn.
Well, I would also second what Bruce was saying. I think it's very much about the people that are making the decisions. You know, if these people happen to regularly come in and ask for permission to spend $5,000, and it's consuming a whole bunch of the council's time to make these what seem to be minor decisions, then the number needs to be bigger. So that basically, I think that was how I would address it: is how often are we making these decisions? And also, like I said before, educating. So if you feel that the people that you put in place are buying things they shouldn't be buying, then instead of taking that power away from them, educate them on our thought process of the council, and so that they can make decisions that we agree with in the future, instead of taking the authority away and just giving another job to the council.
Mrs. Gooding.
Well, first I'd like to ask you if you have a clue what $5,000 is to our budget. Is it 1%? Is it 10%? Is it 50%? When the council passed this ordinance, we did so with the input of our different departments. And our different departments came to us and they said, yes, I'm comfortable with this level. So essentially, $5,000 has really only been breached a couple of times. It was breached when we bought a police car, when we bought a truck for the park department, when we bought a leaf machine. All of those purchases, I feel, are the kinds of purchases that it's okay to step back from and analyze for a few minutes, and not necessarily just run out and buy the one that has the most bells and whistles on it because it happened to be there when you looked at it. So I would say this $5,000 limit was carefully thought out. It was agreed upon by all the different departments, and it works.
Good, thank you very much. Mr. Daggett, how should the many not-for-profit organizations contribute in our community? And should it include financial?
They're not for profit for a reason. They don't have the opportunity to make the financial advances that for-profit businesses do. So I don't know if we could put them in that for-profit light. On the other hand, nonprofit entities can contribute to the community in other ways. I grew up in North Manchester, home of Manchester College, now able to live here in Winona Lake, home to Grace College. All the cultural advantages that those colleges provide to their communities can't be replaced by dollars. They're wonderful entities, and I think something like that is a tremendous advantage to our community and should be fostered.
I believe the non-for-profit communities like Grace College and the churches have a longer lasting impact than any fiscal amount that they could ever give the town. I do believe that a lot of those non-for-profit organizations do contribute financially to the town, whether in gift or some donation form. But I believe that they are not-for-profit and they should remain that way. And I believe that, like I said, they have the long-term interest of the town in mind. They know that if there is no money, they go away. One at a time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to Ward 2, and we'll begin with Mr. Howie. How should the many not-for-profit organizations contribute to our community, and should this include financial?
The nonprofits that we have here contribute to the community in many, many ways. I couldn't possibly start to list them all. I've probably forgotten half of them anyway. Grace Schools, with its fine music department, has brought the cultural aspect into our community, and we could go on and on and on. The village at Winona has revitalized our area down here, and the art people that we have here, that they bring in with the different venues that they put on throughout the year. Grace Village, along with taking care of the elderly, of which my mother-in-law is one, they contribute to this community. I recall of one organization that was established by Lester Pfeiffer. It was called the Organization for a Better, Concerned Organizations for a Better Winona Lake. And they would take and come to the town and say, give us 3 projects and the cost of those projects. They would take one of those projects and they would take and buy that for the town.
Thank you. Mr. Bowl.
Let me speak specifically to one nonprofit for which it comes out of my budget whenever we contribute to Winona Lake specifically. The Orthopedic Capital Center, we refurbished the brownfield. It was $1 million that Grace College paid from its fundraising sources. The Masterworks Festival, Grace invests over $50,000 a year in the Masterworks Festival to keep them in Winona Lake. Recently, I read an article from the governor that talked about nonprofits in our state, and the formula that the Indiana economists use in Indianapolis is if you take the budget of a nonprofit organization, multiply it by 1.81, that'll tell you what the economic impact is of a nonprofit inside a community. So if you take the Grace College budget, multiply it by 1.8, it comes just a little over $50 million a year that Grace College, one of the many nonprofits in the community, bring to this place.
Thank you. Mr. Schaffner, not-for-profits in our community, what should they do to be contributing?
I think they already are contributing. I think we're blessed in this community to have the amount of not-for-profit entities that we do have here. When you stop and think about all the students that attend Grace College and think of the dollars that they come down and spend down in the village, whether they're going to the coffee shop or whether they're going to one of the restaurants to have dinner or any of the other shops, you know, they spend money locally, and that's a large dollar amount. You know, I don't know exactly how you would attribute what that dollar amount is, but I can tell you one thing, it's significant. And I think the other piece to it is that we have with the Masterworks Festival and so forth that takes place here in this community, people come from all over to see this. And that is a huge impact for Winona Lake, and I think we should be very proud that we have these not-for-profits here, because they really make Winona Lake who we are.
Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, I guess I would like to go to the not-for-profits and say you're missing a great opportunity. And I think that opportunity is that I've never heard in all of the council meetings, have them present exactly how many people who live in Winona Lake actually earn their living at these not-for-profits that we have, whether it's at the churches, whether it's at Grace Village, Grace College, the Village of Winona. And I think they miss the opportunity to present the fact to the people of Winona Lake that they employ a large number of people that live and spend their money here and pay taxes here. So again, without them, those people would most likely move on to some other town and move on to some other area in which they would live and work and pay taxes. So we can't just look at the not-for-profit as not paying taxes. The people who work there for them pay taxes.
In Ward 4, Mrs. Gooding, what should the not-for-profit organizations contribute to our community?
Well, quite honestly, for me, the non-for-profits are like the icing on the cake, or perhaps the dessert after dinner. We need the nutritional value of our tax-paying citizens, but what makes life sweeter is the music that the nonprofits provide. What I would like to see from the nonprofits, perhaps, would be a closer association. There is so much knowledge and so much that we could gather from having a better relationship with those nonprofits. And perhaps it would be the seniors being a part of our senior center and those activities. Perhaps it would be Grace College working more closely with our youth or our youth programs. There is much to be gleaned from our nonprofits in terms of time and talent that doesn't always translate to money.
Mr. Wynn.
I think this is actually a very important question, and I'm glad we're discussing this. This is something that I feel like I've noticed just in going to council meetings, that there is some definite animosity between some people in our community and that volume of not-for-profits. So I think this is something that, if I'm elected to town council, this is one of the things on my list that I want to address. I think we need to address basically the PR side of our not-for-profits. I think our not-for-profits can either do two things. Like you said, they can either start paying, or they can do a better job of educating our community on the good that they do. For example, I did ask Mitch, our fire chief, if I could share this example, and he said I could. So in speaking to Mitch, our fire chief, he said that he feels that Grace College just consumes a whole bunch of their time with phone calls and fire calls, and so does Grace Village. But Grace Village pays for their Christmas dinner, and how the guys are so much more happy to go to Grace Village than they are to go to Grace College. But, I mean, so how much did the Christmas dinner cost? So if we can open these communication lines and we can educate our people, I think we can improve this.
Good, and we'll hear from our clerk treasurers on this as well. So, Mrs. Hicks, what should the many not-for-profit organizations contribute to our community, and should it include financial?
I believe that they have contributed, and as other people have talked about, the cultural aspects of our community and what they have given to us. We have such a unique community here of all of the volunteers that give of their time to our community in either time, talent. They're sharing, and I think we have a good mix. And if they are capable of giving to us financially, they do that also. But we can still foster that and nurture that existence to increase any kind of activity, whether it be more volunteerism or more financial. But I think they do a good job now.
Mr. Adams.
Thank you. I'm a native of the area, and I recall, as maybe some of you, that there were many years ago, when Grace College, for example, Dr. Bowl was very, very small in the environment here. Today, that's turned around. I served on the Grace College Board of Trustees, and I think Dr. Manahan has made a large difference, because now they are not isolated as they were years ago. And granted, nonprofits are not just about money and what they contribute, but I could tell you, as clerk treasurer and with my background on raising money, so to speak, I would be talking to them and saying, hey, what can you do? Anything more? But they've done a great job. Thank you.